Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. The United States, France and other allies push for a 21-day ceasefire in Lebanon as a sharp escalation of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah plunges the country into an all-out war. Russia has reportedly established a weapons program in China to manufacture long-range attack drones for use in its war against Ukraine. White House expresses deep concern over reports. Beijing launches a complaint with Tokyo after Japanese warship sails through the tense Taiwan Strait for the first time. And Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau survives a vote of confidence after the opposition Conservative Party failed to gather enough support to end 9 years of Liberal Party rule. Heavy rains lash India's financial capital Mumbai, triggering floods and killing at least 4. Schools and colleges remain closed as the downpour cripples life in the city. Hello and welcome. We start in North Africa, where Egypt is set for a massive boost in its defense sector. The United States has approved the sale of 720 Stinger missiles to Egypt worth $740 million. The U.S. State Department said in a statement that the sale will help improve the security of its friend. Washington described Egypt as an important force for political stability and economic growth in the region. The move highlights the growing Egypt-US ties amid heightened tensions in the North Africa and West Asia. Now, it comes after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Cairo last week and hailed the partnership with Egypt. Egypt is a key mediator in efforts to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Its mediation efforts have improved ties with the US, which earlier raised concerns over human rights under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. However, the Stinger missiles deal is likely to add to a backlog of military supplies by the United States. The missiles are already in high demand due to their effectiveness in Ukraine against Russian air attacks. US has already received orders from Taiwan and NATO allies for the missiles. Earlier this year, several NATO members reportedly placed a $700 million order for missiles, extending the production line backlog through to 2029. Egypt's new order will further add to this growing demand for the missiles. Now, the Stinger is a man-portable surface-to-air missile system. That means it can be launched by a soldier or a trained civilian who typically holds it on their shoulder. However, Egypt will put the missiles on vehicles equipped with the Avenger launcher system. The missiles are lightweight, compact, mobile, and low cost. It can hit targets flying as high as 11,500 feet and has a range of about 8 kilometers. The missiles will boost Egypt's defense capabilities and protect it against potential air threats. Egypt has the most powerful military in the Arab world. It is also considered the strongest in Africa by its fighting capabilities. As per the Global Firepower Report, Egypt holds the 15th position globally. In terms of military expenditure, Egypt holds the third largest defense budget in Africa at $9.4 billion. It trails behind Algeria with $21.6 billion and Morocco with $12.8 billion. And globally, Cairo ranks as the 35th country with the highest defense budget. Egypt has also recently provided weapons to its ally Somalia amid the tensions in the Horn of Africa. Now, this reflects Egypt's growing military strength and presence regionally and also globally. For more on this, we have with us Dr. Samuel Alewale, who is a security expert and research fellow at the University of Pretoria. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Doctor, how will the acquisition of the 720 Stinger missiles enhance Egypt's defense capabilities, particularly in context of the regional security dynamics and its role as a mediator in the Gaza crisis?
Okay, if we look at the recent or the proposed acquisition by Egypt, it has the potential to boost the military capability of Egypt, especially when we consider it in the light of the emerging dynamics in the region. Most of what we have seen in that region in recent time are mostly related to air-related attack, missile attack from the Houthis against Israel, the Hezbollah against Israel, as well as Israel against some of these hostile forces. So the role of air defense system is critical for countries around this region at this point in time, for them to defend against incoming drone attack, as well as aircraft and missile. So acquisition of surface-to-air missile is critical at this point in time, and as well as if we look at the current capability of Egypt. Egypt, according to the recent or the latest report of IISS, we noticed that Egypt have about 700 surface-to-air missiles currently under the control of its Air Defense Command. So this additional order is likely to add or boost the capability of Egypt, especially in the near future, because considering the fact that there's a backlog of order of this particular weapon from the US already, that the likelihood of getting this weapon as soon as possible is not too certain, meaning that the supply of such weapon may not be this year. It may start from maybe the next 2-3 years, possibly. So these are some of the concerns. Despite the fact that it's going to boost the capability, it may not be in the immediate time. It may be in the next 2-3 years in addition. Again, it may offer Egypt the opportunity to also retire some of the old inventory as well, as a replacement and as a addition to the existing capability in terms of air defense system.
Right. And how does this arms deal reflect the current state of US-Egypt relations, especially considering the recent waiver of human rights conditions on military aid? What are the potential diplomatic repercussions in the Middle East?
Okay, I think in terms of US-Egypt relation, it shows improvement in US-Egypt relation. A few months ago, the report that shows that Egypt requested for certain military equipment from the US that was declined. And after that, there was there are other reports recently, especially in around August, September, this September, that shows that Egypt is also placing order on a number of J-10 from China. So these are evidence that shows that in recent time, the relationship in terms of procurement may not be as perfect as we have seen recently. And this particular order and approval from the US State Department shows that is a significant indicator of improving relationship in terms of procurement, defense procurement from the US. So if we look at the relationship in the holistic context of the security and then the ongoing armed conflict and the role of Egypt in negotiation in this in negotiating peace deal in the region, we notice that at this point, U.S. cannot also avoid to lose Egypt as a major ally in the region because despite the fact that U.S. have the interest to boost the military capability and support Israel to respond and defend itself against current and potential future attack, they also have interest to settle the ongoing conflict in the region. And Egypt play a major role in this area. So because of that, the U.S. cannot avoid to lose Egypt as a major ally, while Egypt also have a long-time relation with the U.S. We can say recently, U.S. have revised its position in terms of cutting the aid designed for Egypt. So I think for the first time this year, U.S. will be paying the full design or budgeted aid for Egypt in terms of military support, due to the fact that the country has become a critical player in the region and in advancing U.S. interest in the region.
Yeah. And Doctor, the deal is valued at $740 million. What are the economic implications for Egypt's defense budget and the broader economic stability? How might this expenditure affect other areas of public spending?
Okay, Egypt has a history of huge defense procurement. Egypt is always known for huge defense procurement running into billions. So this is not the first time that Egypt will be making such huge procurement. Again, the available evidence does not show whether this particular procurement, that the payments will be at a go or spread over a period of time. So I'm not privileged to have access to that kind of data, or we don't have details about how the payments will be made. And again, we can't totally say in terms of, beside the fact that we are not too sure of when the period that the payment will be spread, we are not too sure whether U.S. will also be supporting Egypt one way or the other through foreign aid, given the fact that there is now a clear cost in terms of full payment of foreign aid designed for Egypt. In addition to that, there's no way, one way or the other, the amount spent on military budget will reduce what is available for other areas of the economy. But if we look at Egypt's defense budget over the years, it has revolved around 4% of government spending and about 1.something% of the GDP. So if not sometimes around 2%. So that shows that Egypt have a significant history of defense spending and is not new in terms of food defense procurement. However, there's no way it will not affect other side of the economy, education, health sector, and infrastructural development. And we can see recently that Egypt is incurring heavy debt to fund some of its infrastructural projects, especially the new capital city and some other projects that the country is committed to. And again, when we consider the dynamics, the defense dynamics in the region, we cannot ignore the need for this particular capability as well.
Right. Doctor, as always, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your valued insights.
Thank you for having me.
Shifting focus to the Horn of Africa, where Ethiopia-Somalia tensions continue to intensify. In the latest, Somalia has accused its neighbor Ethiopia of smuggling weapons into its territory. Somalia says Ethiopia is supplying weapons to its northeastern Puntland region. It has called it a grave violation of its sovereignty and a move that poses serious implications for national and regional security. Somali Foreign Ministry said that it has documented evidence confirming the arrival of 2 lorries transporting weapons from Ethiopia to Puntland. It says the shipment was executed without any diplomatic engagement or clearance. As per media reports, some locals in the Puntland region have also seen a convoy arriving in the area that was escorted by the Puntland security forces. Now, Puntland in northeast Somalia declared itself an autonomous state in August of 1998. It has not sought independence. However, earlier this year, it announced that it would operate as a functionally independent state amid a dispute over Somali constitutional changes. So it means that Somali ties with Ethiopia are worsening over two of its autonomous regions. Now, tensions between the two neighbours are already worsening due to Ethiopia's port deal with Somaliland. Somaliland is Somalia's breakaway region, which, unlike Puntland, has demanded independence since 1991. Landlocked Ethiopia agreed to officially recognise Somaliland in exchange for its port and part of its coastline to build a naval base, and Somalia has called this deal illegal. The situation worsened after Egypt, which has its own issues with Ethiopia, sent weapons to Somalia. Cairo has sent 2 shipments of crucial weapons to Mogadishu. Now, Cairo is at odds with Addis Ababa over its construction of a giant dam on the River Nile. Egypt has also offered its troops to be deployed in Somalia to fight the Islamist terrorists. This deployment of troops can potentially replace some 3,000 Ethiopian troops in Somalia that Mogadishu has warned to expel if the deal with Somaliland is not cancelled. Addis Ababa has not responded to Somalia's latest accusation of weapon smuggling, but it is expected to deepen the ongoing conflict. Turkey has mediated 2 rounds of talks to solve the issue, which failed to achieve a breakthrough. Can the Horn of Africa neighbours work to resolve the rivalry? And moving on to southern Africa, the main opposition party of Eswatini said its leader was poisoned in neighbouring South Africa in an alleged assassination attempt. The People's United Democratic Movement Party, or the Podemo, has said that its president, Mlungisi Makhanya, was hospitalized after being poisoned in Pretoria, where he has been living in exile since 2022. The party said that while Makhanya's condition is currently stable, he remains critical. The alleged attempt on Makhanya's life comes days after he announced fresh protests for multi-party elections in Eswatini. Now, Eswatini, previously called Swaziland, is a landlocked nation of 1.2 million people between South Africa and Mozambique. It is the last remaining absolute monarchy in Africa. The country allows independent candidates to stand for parliament, but does not allow political parties to participate. Now, King Mswati III, who has been on the throne since 1986, has been accused of quashing pro-democracy movements and targeting pro-democracy figures in recent years. Podemo Deputy President Wandile Dlodlo has claimed that on the 24th of September, Eswatini's government offered 200,000 rand, or over $11,000 reward, to anyone who might succeed in killing or abducting Makhanya. Shortly after the announcement, the Podemo president was hospitalized after alleged poisoning in Pretoria. Now, the Podemo deputy leader also said that the substance used to poison Makhanya is scarce and cannot be easily accessed by ordinary citizens. Eswatini's government has denied state involvement in the case.
Government, through the law enforcement agencies that adheres to a strict code of ethics and professionalism, only apprehend suspects and bring them to justice, and they are brought to justice alive, not dead.
Eswatini's government, led by its monarch, has repeatedly been accused of attempting to eliminate the country's pro-democracy figures. In September of 2022, Makhanya's home in Eswatini was set alight in an alleged firebomb attack by state agents. After the attack, Makhanya fled to South Africa's capital of Pretoria with his family. In 2021, student-led protests in Eswatini over alleged police brutality morphed into calls for political change and emerged as the most serious challenge to the country's monarchy. At least 46 people were killed in a series of clashes between protesters and security forces. Even more shocking case of targeted killing came last year, when a prolific human rights lawyer and Podemo member, Thulani Maseko, was shot in his home in front of his wife and children. Makhanya at the time had described the killing as a political assassination. Eswatini's government denied any role in the case, but no one has been held accountable for Maseko's killing. In Eswatini, the king appoints the prime minister, as well as the majority of the members of the upper house of parliament. The king also has the power of veto over parliament's decisions and can make laws by decree. Now, King Mswati III has more than a dozen spouses and lives a lavish lifestyle, while ordinary citizens of the country struggle with high levels of poverty. As Eswatini's monarchy remains mired in accusations of targeting pro-democracy figures and suppressing freedoms, the question that remains is, how long could the monarchy resist people's will for pro-democracy reforms? And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Our story today is about Uganda's finest jesters, the Bizonto. They have turned poking fun at the government into an art form. Founded in Kampala in 2020, this troupe has no problem ruffling political feathers with their sharp satire. They were thrown in jail as the people in power couldn't digest their satire, but later Bizonto walked free and carried on the wings of a digital movement. Our last report gets you all the details.
Locked up like criminals, every move watched, always in the crosshairs of those in power. Such is the fate of anyone daring to criticize the government. Yet, the courage of these voices of dissent is unbreakable. Meet Uganda's singing jesters, Bizonto, a comedy troupe with a sharp tongue and a knack for political satire. Bizonto, born in Kampala in 2020, is anything but subtle. The group's name literally means mentally unstable, and their brand of humor hits at the heart of Uganda's political landscape. Through satire, they expose the chaos of the country's governance. They don't just poke fun, they shine a glaring spotlight on what the majority of Ugandans are already thinking.
Specifically, we wanted to talk about the government. We wanted to criticize the government. And, by the way, we thought that when we used the name Bizonto, they will not arrest us at any single moment, because they was thinking that we are not normal.
One of their most memorable acts, a skit that brilliantly mirrored the real-life follies of a certain long-standing leader of a fictional village. An 80-year-old patriarch who had ruled for almost 4 decades. The village was in shambles. No basic services, crumbling infrastructure, and absurdly high taxes. It was a direct swipe at President Yoweri Museveni, who has clung to power since the early 80s. But, as with all good satire, it doesn't always land with those holding the reins. In 2020, Bizonto put out a video asking Ugandans to pray for their leaders, casually including names like Museveni, the police chief, and the head of prisons. It didn't sit well with the powers that be. Before they knew it, helicopters were swarming, guns drawn, as a heavily armed squad stormed the radio station where Bizonto was performing. Their crime? Promoting sectarianism. Their punishment? Facing up to 5 years in prison. And just like that, the comedy troupe found themselves behind bars. Many thought this would be the end of Uganda's satirical rebels, but not quite. Thanks to the magical powers of social media, #FreeBizonto quickly became the rallying cry across the country. While they were counting days in jail through tally marks on the walls, outside, their fan base doubled overnight. The public pressure mounted, and eventually Bizonto walked free. Their skits resonate across generations, from 20-somethings to septuagenarians, all eagerly tuning in to watch these mentally unstable clowns speak truth to power. One audience member remarked that Bizonto captures the struggles of ordinary Ugandans, from corruption to potholed roads and hospitals devoid of medicine. The laughter, cheers and hoots from the crowd make it clear that Bizonto is onto something.
The show generally it has been massive and interesting. Otherwise, I may say it has been more educative to the youth side also. Basically, there is a certain script that Bizonto comedy tried to pull out.
As for the troupe, they admit that their time in jail was a rude awakening. But it hasn't dulled their determination. We never gave up, one member said, because we knew we were on the right side of history. And for Uganda's rulers, that's the punchline they never saw coming.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.